And I don't think a lot of people realize that the hospital really is run by a bunch of 20 to 30-year-old fresh out of training doctors, you know? If you come into the hospital in the middle of the night, the people who are going to be taking care of you are residents and fellows. Being a medical resident means that you're in your first year or, first few years of being a physician. So after graduating medical school, you are in the hospital working and learning about how to be a doctor. And the reason that it's called a resident is because people used to literally live in the hospital because you spend so much time working.
Interns in their first year of residency training often work more than 80 hours a week at wages that equate to less than minimum wage. And this is coming out of medical school with often greater than $300,000 of educational debt. And then in a city like Los Angeles, you're working these crazy hours, doing the best that you can to take care of patients while you're also struggling to maintain financially in one of the most expensive cities in the country.
So medical residents tend to make about somewhere between $50,000 and $70,000 a year. Tuition tends to run around $50,000 a year, and then for living expenses on top of that, most people are taking out loans because they aren't able to work during med school. It's just too time consuming.
I graduated medical school with now about $275,000 of educational debt. I have no idea how I'll be able to pay that off. You know, my first year of residency, most of the time I only had maybe one day off per week, and most days was working greater than 13 or 14 hours a day.
We work about 80 hours a week. That's our cap on our work hours. Although it's a well-known phenomenon that, especially in some of the more difficult residencies and surgical subspecialties, many people will work over that cap, and I do think there's systemic underreporting.
Medical residencies are typically funded through the CMS, so Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services.
Hospitals get around $100,000 per resident to fund their training per year. That's in addition to, of course, the money that residents bring into the hospital through their billable labor.
Only a fraction of that money actually goes towards salary and benefits for those residents.
You know, I know people in my program who are leaving medicine, or who, when they finish residency, are planning on not staying in medicine because it's not the job that people thought that it was. And the response to burnout hasn't been to reflect meaningfully on what causes burnout and how we can make it better. The response instead has been to, create online modules that we have to take in our free time to teach us about how we need to sleep more. I'm not kidding you, when I was going through my orientation for residency, one of the questions in these online modules that we had was about what we should do during our free time. And the options were spend time with your loved ones, pick up a hobby, do some extra work to make extra money, or sleep. The only right answer was sleep. Spending time with your loved ones was not a right answer. That's not a sustainable way to run a business, and it's especially not a sustainable way to run something like healthcare, where you don't want empty shells of people taking care of patients. Basically, residents can't offer their services on the free market. They can't go out and find a job that pays them what they're willing to pay. They can't say, this is what I think that I'm worth. I want to find a hospital that pays me what I'm worth, because we're specifically exempted from antitrust laws, and all of the hospitals collaborate to set standards for pay and working conditions. So residency is essentially outside of our, American capitalist ideal of the free market running itself efficiently. Residents have very little leverage in the way that they can negotiate for their working conditions. We don't like our job, we can't just quit because we'll never be able to be a doctor.
In order to be able to take care of patients, we need to be able to take care of ourselves as well. And I think that a big part of being able to take care of ourselves in residency is being able to advocate for ourselves, which is something that unionization is going to help us with.
Everybody who I know who's unionizing is excited to find ways to improve patient care standards and to bring the focus of healthcare back from the bottom line to the patient.
Even though residency has been historically an exploitative experience, We want to send the message that it doesn't have to be. We as residents do not have to accept disrespect. The work that we do is valuable and it should be valued appropriately. We have power. Our medical labor is powerful.